This is ronyReborn with the Setapart podcast. Welcome to another episode. If you're listening, you can catch us on YouTube at ronyReborn. If you're watching, you can catch us on iTunes and other podcast platforms. But thank you for your time, and I pray that you're edified by this conversation. So I'm here with Cecil.
Yep.
Um, you're a poet.
I am. Yep.
I just seen that you. How long has the Craft Factory been in effect?
Craft Factory's been around since November of 2017.
So you're the founder of the Craft Factory,
Yes.
minister, brother in Christ. Cecil. Now look, when I knew
Many
you,
trades,
right?
man,
When I knew
many
you, when I
trades.
first met you, you were going by Quiet
Quiet
Storm.
Storm.
Okay, so now
Oh man.
is it just Cecil the poet?
And people say like, oh, it's Cecil the poet. And I'm like, no, it's just my government name, Cecil Williams. It's one of those things where so first, like, backtrack, Quiet Storm kind of got started because I was doing a poem, and one of the things that kind of came into play. Thank you, bro. Shout out to Dave D.
Shout out to Dave D Beats.
And so one of the things that I guess the compliment that I got when I was doing spoken word one time was one of my female friends was like, yo, he just reminds me of a Quiet Storm and all this stuff. And so I was pretty embarrassed, to be honest. I hated the name, but people thought it was catchy, so I rocked with it for a cool minute, for a long time. And then I came to realize, like, that name was actually a radio host off of 94.47 The
yeah,
Wave.
The Quiet Storm.
Yeah, The Quiet Storm.
That was
And
actually
so,
a show.
Yeah. So
I feel you.
I just like, yo, someone got that name too. So I was like, And so I literally, as time went on, I just was like, I could live without it. So I went on an MIA just hiatus. And then I came back and I'm like, I'll just go by my name. Like, I don't need a stage name and
Right.
all that stuff. So it is what it is. But yeah, I'm Cecil. A man of many trades, as you just said. I am the founder of the Craft Factory, spoken word artist. I'm a barber. I'm a full-time work in education. So I'm a full-time instructional aide, actually, at my job. So I'm everywhere. My mind is everywhere, but it's in a good place when it comes to just doing what I'm called to do what I believe in, and that's it. But what I do want to say though is before we get to any kind of questions and stuff, I do want to say there wouldn't be a lot of people that are doing what they're doing if it wasn't for this guy. This dude that y'all watching or listening to, the host of this podcast. Let me tell y'all, no matter the perception, no matter the opinion or whatever that, people may feel, this person, Ronnie, man, he's actually one of the first people that I met, and actually was one of the first people that I really was like, oh, so who's doing the whole, the Christian thing, you know what I'm saying? The whole Christian events and stuff like that. And before there was a plethora of people now who were doing it, there were the only people, honestly, that I knew was Ronnie, 9up, and Tim Scott.
That's right. That's right.
Those three.
Yeah.
And so I really just want to take time to honor you, bro. Like,
I appreciate it.
you
I mean,
you've been
say.
consistent. You've been in it for the long haul, and you still in it, and you weathered storms, and you weathered different things, conversations, relationships, all this stuff, man. And to see you still doing what you're doing, still moving, and to, like, known you for quite a while now.
No, it's been a minute.
It's
now.
been a minute.
Yeah.
Like the beard is getting gray, and
You know
I'm
what
getting,
saying?
the hairline going back in my head. And
I don't wish it on you.
You know what I'm saying? So it's I really just want to take that time out to really say that, because I don't think you get a lot of credit for just being you and being a light and doing stuff like event planning and DJing and all this stuff. Like real talk, before there was a lot of people out here, it was those three, and Ronnie was in that.
Wow.
And so I really want to highlight that. You know what I'm saying? Like genuinely highlight that for real. So yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Wow.
You know, so you through your work, man.
I'm blown away.
Yeah,
I'm
for
blown
real.
away. I just, you know what? I would be like, oh no, it's not for me, and it's
Yeah.
not, and it's not.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But let's just say you brought up something real heavy to me
Yeah.
that doesn't get picked up on.
Yeah.
You know, it might not be the most popular, it
Yeah.
might not be the most polished,
Yeah.
but it's still the vessel being used.
That's it.
And like you said, yeah,
That's
it wasn't. It was a labor of love. I'm
Yeah.
sure between nine, like you said, Nine Up, Tim Scott,
Yeah.
myself.
And don't get me wrong,
There was others.
Yeah, there was others.
Yeah.
But for me, coming into my salvation and coming into knowing Jesus and starting to build that community, when it came to the creative side that I'm engulfed in now, I tell people like I was just with Nine Up maybe a month ago with Gil Gaspy at his church, and I performed there.
Okay.
And I said publicly, I'm like, if it wasn't for Nine Up and
Yeah.
even Gil Gaspy, there would be no me. Like,
Look, we would
you know,
we would have no outlet.
exactly.
Nine Up had the Light Club.
Listen, like
Nine Up had his music.
he had all nine going down at the same time,
Right.
and he was able to engulf people in such a way where not only people was able to be welcomed, but it was such a unique thing to see Christians. And this coming from me, like at the time I was a new Christian, but I was on fire for Jesus and all that stuff. So when you see people, you know what I'm saying, like
It's
doing
encouraging.
this stuff, it's like, oh, this people are doing this, and I don't have to be a certain way. You know what I'm saying? And so, even Lucky, he don't go by Lucky now.
Yeah.
But Justin, like,
Yeah,
like
Mr.
he
McWhorter.
he was a dude that as an artist, he was one of the first people that I met as an artist, and it was like, oh, so this is different. You know what I'm saying? So, it's just amazing to see like people that you really sometimes people can overlook. They get caught up in doing what they're doing
Yeah.
and going and going and going. But when you pause and really look at what you've done and what you've been through, and you look back, like you really gotta pay attention to who was before you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Or who was just there.
Yeah, no matter the
Part of the fabric is one's
Exactly.
not better than the other.
Exactly.
One don't mean more to
Yeah.
God than the other.
Exactly.
It's just that I think if we do stop to notice who's part of the fabric,
Yeah.
it's easier for us to move as a community,
Yeah.
as a family. It won't be I'm not a stranger to you
Yeah.
because like you said, we have history.
Yeah.
We're not a, because
Yeah.
what you're talking about is you talking 2013
That's
and around
yeah.
ish. You
and
talking
people
around that zone.
and I know people think like, oh, that's what 5-6 years. That's not that long. But when it comes
Man.
to
How many phones came and went?
listen, like,
How many
listen,
phones came and went in that time?
Listen, like
yeah.
when you really put stuff in perspective, and not just in involving a person's walk with Jesus, and on top of that, being gifted and being talented and all that stuff, like. You really got to put in perspective, like all that stuff wrapped into one around that time. It's a lot for a person to take in, too.
Yeah, yeah.
So even for me, going back further, I came into Jesus around like 2008.
Okay.
So
Well, I was right behind
yeah,
you.
so
2010.
2008, I got introduced, but when I came into the faith, I was thrown right into ministry, like serve, and so
Yeah.
I had to learn firsthand to serve well while growing. And as tough as it was, the biggest thing that for me I always had this wrestle with God is community. What does community look like? What does brotherhood look like? Because for me personally, I don't have any blood brothers.
I got you.
So, growing with two sisters, it's like, what does this look like, God?
Yeah.
And so coming into the faith, now you're serving, and then you got to grow at the same time. You really push aside the issues, and you push aside your flaws, all the things that you have to grow out of. But then when you see community kind of come, and God just kind of sets it up where you go to this event, you know what I'm saying? Then
Yeah.
you meet people like you, and then
Yeah.
you go to an event, you see people like Carl Fontaine.
Yeah.
You go to an event, at the time you see people like Deuce,
Yeah.
or you see like Nine Up, and
Yeah.
you see Justin, and you see all these people, and it's like, oh, I'm not
Family.
alone. You know
That's
what I'm
right.
saying? So I just for me, and I know we're on our separate. We got a whole bunch of stuff. We got families, we got
Yeah, we
jobs,
got lives.
but to really just pause and like think like, yeah, man, like you came from a fabric that people may overlook it, but it's so much worth more talking about just
Yeah,
because it's like this is the fabric that we came from, Nai. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And now you see people like Hop, you see people that are killing the game,
yeah.
and but you really gotta think and like who came before and actually playing that foundation. So it's just it's really good for us just to shout people like you and people like that out.
No, that's cool.
Yeah,
You said community. You feel what I'm
yeah,
saying? Which is kind of tying me into. I just don't want to hop right
yeah, yeah,
into the
yeah, yeah,
craft
yeah, yeah,
factory,
for
but
sure.
this community issue is a serious issue
It really is.
in the body of Christ.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with someone today,
Mhm.
and he went and visited somewhere,
Mhm.
and to him, he got the cultic vibe.
Mhm.
Like it was, I'm trying to say it in a nice
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
There was like there was an area where it was just closed off if
Mhm.
you weren't part of it.
Yeah.
Like being a member of the body of Christ
Right.
wasn't enough. You had
Right.
to be that plus what we like or what we
Mm.
accept.
Yeah.
So for believers looking for community,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Because the book of Acts, they talk about
Yeah.
they were with each other every day.
Yeah.
And that every day doesn't mean 24/7.
Yeah.
And to say every day is to say community. Because if
Mhm.
we live in the same community,
Mhm.
you drive by my house all the time.
Yeah.
Your kids are running out in front of my house.
Right.
You keep backing into my mailbox. It's an everyday
Right.
thing, meaning we're in
Right.
each other's lives.
Yeah.
And that builds a
Yeah.
community.
Mhm.
And so I'm just saying, as a member of the body of Christ,
Yeah.
community is real important to me because, kind of like you,
Yeah.
I got my first blood brother when I was 20.
Wow.
So I'm solo
Wow.
bolo until
Wow.
up until that time. I got my stepbrothers when I was 17.
Yeah.
But I'm already matured,
Yeah, yeah.
and we're not meeting each other as growing up together. It's
Wow.
prove to me that I should.
Yeah.
It was still like being a new
Yeah.
kid at a new school.
That's crazy.
And
And that's yeah.
You know what I mean? So for me, there was always a thing of community. That's why I still got a lot of homies that I used to have.
Mhm.
Some of them I should probably let go because
Yeah.
they're not saved. And,
Yeah.
you don't want to cast your
Yeah.
pearls to swine.
Swine. Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because the homies on that familiarity tip
Mhm.
know they can get a
Yeah.
pass or know they can pull
Exactly.
you out of, not necessarily get you to drinking and smoking
Yeah,
and
yeah,
killing
yeah,
and
yeah.
looting,
Yeah.
but just,
Yeah. They know how to push your buttons.
stealing time. Yeah, you basically
Yeah.
stealing time on the
Mhm.
strength that we have history.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
I'm just saying that to say that I'm that kind of dude that likes to keep my friends. I like
Yeah.
to. It's not like I'm scared to be alone. I was,
Yeah.
only child. It's just I appreciate
Yeah.
being able to bounce ideas off of each other. I
Exactly.
appreciate you being able to sharpen me if
Mhm.
my game ain't tight. Man, his
Yeah.
shoes are always clean.
Right.
I better do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what community is
Yeah,
for.
and community, man, is something that is the biggest misconception that I was even under, was especially when you are like gifted and you are talented and all that stuff, you fall under the trap of feeling like if I perform, if I get on a stage, if I get accomplishments, it's my way of gaining community. It's my way of gaining the affirmation. But the truth of the matter is, and I learned the hard way, like that doesn't equate to whatever God will give you as far as community.
Or
And
okay.
yeah. So it's when it comes to community, one of the biggest things that even now I'm still discovering is a lot of people, including myself, we have no problem being transparent.
Okay.
But when it comes to being vulnerable, it's a whole nother game.
Well, no, that's true. I can see that. I see that.
And one of my good friends told me and just really shed light on that. And he was like, "We can be transparent. We can talk about our days. We can say I'm irritated or
Right.
all this stuff. But when it comes to vulnerability, being vulnerable is like, hey, I'm sharing something with you that if I hear it from somebody else,
Okay.
I know who it's coming from.
I got you.
And
I
so
got you.
when it comes to vulnerability, it's a very sacred space that I feel like us as a body, even as Christian men,
Yeah.
we still struggle with. We don't know how to
Yeah.
really bear into one another. And so even tying that to like even just me personally, like it was a struggle to find out what is it like to just be, not try to become anything, not try
Not to
to
fit in
not to fit in
any sort of
exactly,
slot.
because I
Yeah.
realized even though like one thing about me that I realized is that I have a it was a secret pride. It wasn't like a boastful pride.
No, no.
It was a very subtle pride in me to make me feel like I know better. I know what I need. And so I would cast my expectations on people without really saying my expectations. So I would act a certain way or be around people. And because I was around you, because we built with one another, then it was like, oh, we cool. You know what I'm saying? You know, and all that good stuff.
I
But
get it.
now it's like, wait a minute. No, you got to
Earn.
earn it. You
Yeah.
got to check up on them. You got to actually reach out to them. You can't just,
And when like
yeah.
let me what you're saying is absolutely a real thing, you know.
Yeah.
And it's something that I bet you a lot of people deal with.
It's
they might
real.
they might not have noticed what it is,
Mm-hmm.
or that sometimes things go right under your radar and you
Yeah.
wonder how come I'm in this position again. It could be exactly what you're saying as far as, you know, I've done my part as what I think standards of a friend are. Now give me what I feel you owe me.
And may not voice it. And,
Yeah.
and then now when you get mad, like say if we cool,
Right.
and all of a sudden I don't hear from you in like 2 weeks,
Right.
and I get irritated. It's like, what's going on? Why is bro not hitting me?
Right,
All
right.
that stuff, and I hit you up. Now we getting this big feud, and you say, hey, I didn't know you wanted that from me.
Right.
And it's a lot of that going on, honestly. Like there's not a lot of open communication. Like what do you expect from this person? What definition are you giving this relationship?
Right.
And there's no kind of definition to your relation, and there's no problem defining stuff. And I feel like people are scared of defining something. It's okay to put a healthy label on something like, hey, this is my friend,
Yeah.
this is my acquaintance.
Right.
And honestly sometimes I feel like we confuse friendship with a discipleship too. We feel like just because we hang with somebody,
Yeah.
or we grab coffee, I might look at it as, oh, this is my homie.
Yeah.
But then you might look at it, or say if it's you, we go to the coffee shop, I might look at it, oh man, you my homie. But then you might look at me like, no, I'm actually discipling you. But that conversation was never met.
Right.
You know, or that never had.
Right.
And so when you don't have that conversation, it's like, well, it leads to chaos, it leads to miscommunication,
No.
it leads to all that
You
stuff.
just said it. Once you have miscommunication,
Yeah.
you have room for everything to go wrong.
Error, everything.
Oh yeah, grab the one on the right. Okay, I didn't tell you my right.
Right.
Your right.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
so this is where the communication, but I think it ties back in to what we were talking about as far as community.
Yeah.
In a sense that we haven't been able to do the complete being vulnerable,
Yeah.
the clear communication without worrying about how you might feel, or actually being comfortable with addressing expectations. Because from my experience,
Yeah.
I'm sure someone, I'm just saying from my experience, when I'm dealing with the body of Christ, I think we're so fragmented, right? And a lot of people see the body of Christ in an institutional sense, first or only. You know what I mean? To the point where we don't get past Sunday and Wednesday to get into really just being brothers and sisters, good or bad, truth, all the honesty that we were talking about that will destroy miscommunications and false expectations. We never get past the institutionalized part of it. You know what I mean? Not throwing it away.
Yeah.
Like, because this is a touchy subject.
It is.
But
Yeah.
the point that we're talking community.
Yeah.
See, a lot of congregations are taking over or congregation has been replacing community. Because let's say congregation is, like I said, Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe a little cleanup, maybe a little pitch in, the car wash, or, rally around whatever's going on for our church building. You know what I'm saying? But we don't get past the church building stuff to get into the body of Christ, the church that's on earth, the bride that's going to be caught up, regardless of what zip code, what area code, color, background. You got saved 2008.
Yeah.
What age?
I was 19. So
I got
yeah.
saved 2010, 35.
Wow.
I can still learn from you
Right.
as an older brother in
Yeah.
Christ.
Yeah.
Do you feel what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Like
for
it's not
sure.
like, oh well, I'm
Yeah.
older than you, so I know more than you.
Mhm.
I could probably help. We can probably have
Yeah.
conversations, but you can probably show me a few
Yeah.
things that, oh man, that's just how it is,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah. And it's
Where would take a thorn out of my side
exactly.
because, you know what I mean. You've
Yeah.
been set apart longer
Yeah.
than me.
Yeah.
You
And
feel what I'm saying?
it's one of those things of sometimes we get uh in an unhealthy way. We get caught up in rank. We get caught up in um just order
Yeah.
in a certain context.
No, no, no.
We get caught up in the
Can I say this?
structure. Yeah.
Can I say
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
before you go?
Yeah.
It's not about throwing the baby out with the bathwater,
Yeah.
shutting down all the churches so we can all live together in
Right.
one big old project.
Exactly.
Not saying that. I'm just saying that the structure,
Mhm.
the order, the
Mhm.
rank, the
Mhm.
jockeying for position,
Mhm.
the using my gifts for
Mhm.
I'm going to say inappropriate
Yeah.
attention because like you were saying
Yeah.
earlier, like, man, I should be
Yeah.
elevated. What's wrong with them?
Yeah.
So that's inappropriate as far as
Yeah.
what the
And
gift is for.
yeah.
But I believe all that stems from, you know, it's beautiful to have buildings in
Mhm.
cities where we could come together.
Mhm.
But I think we need to go not without it,
Yeah.
move forward
forward.
with it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Being
Yeah.
able to be comfortable to be like, it's not about I'm a member of the body of Christ. Well, what church
Right.
do you go to?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I don't go to a church. I believe the
Right.
Bible. I believe in God, Ten Commandments, or you know what I mean. I'm in the book of First Peter.
Mhm.
You feel what I'm saying? And so
Yeah.
I'm learning that,
Yeah.
and it's still the same level of reverence and obedience on mine, and I'm
Yeah.
looking to the same heaven that you're looking to.
Right.
But you have it to where sometimes saying that you don't participate or I just don't go to
Mhm.
one now or
Yeah.
or yet or whatever,
Yeah.
you get the recoil.
Yeah.
And so
And that's what you want to always. It is painful because you see it in just basic thing like community. You see it in artists.
Right.
You see it in gifted people where if we don't do the same thing or if we don't have the same, if you don't like my song,
right. I got
you
you.
might have potential to get blocked. Like that's how we're in a culture where, and I know cliche people talk about it so much when it comes to comparison that now it gets so, I would say, watered down in a sense where we talk about it all day and we know that's the elephant in the room, comparison,
Right.
comparison, comparison. But at the end of the day, we can talk about it all day.
Right.
But unless you provide the actual action to show this is what comparison doesn't look like, this is how you actually attack it in a healthy way, in a fruitful way, then we're actually able to follow suit.
I got you.
But sometimes when we talk about certain things for so long, it gets watered down.
Nah.
And it gets round and around and around. And it's like,
Have you ever had a girlfriend that you argue with?
oh, yeah.
Okay.
All the time.
I've been in positions where I'm married now,
Mhm.
and this used to happen to me and my wife. But what you're saying is, if we don't just get to the solution,
Yeah.
we could start with a little petty argument at
Yeah.
about 11 a.m.
Yeah.
and about 12:30 a.m.
Yeah.
we're still on it, and
Right.
and because we've been just exhausting ourselves and not just saying, hey, here's where I'm wrong, here's what we need to shed, here's what would be helpful, and so
The equivalent to that
Yeah.
with community is that person saying, hey, this is what I need.
Straight
like
up.
just straight up, hey, this is what I need. If you can't fulfill that or if you can't provide that, then that's fine. I understand. But at least I voiced it.
Yeah.
And that's the part for me. It gets me, and that's what I struggle with because it's like if you don't voice what you need, and it's okay to voice what you need. And people have this stigma where if you keep quiet and you just allow God to move, then it's like, well, you're allowing God to do half the battle, but you still got to put in the other half of the work.
Oh, I mean, there's every example in the scripture.
Yeah, like it's not rocket science. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Even the disciples. The disciples, they didn't really they wasn't all chummy and just, oh, we're just best friends. Sometimes they got into it.
Yeah.
Sometimes they was like,
Parted ways.
yeah, they
No,
parted ways.
You go with them.
Right, they had to take a break.
I believe Barnabas.
Yeah, Barnabas and
I don't know if it was Paul, where they came to some point to where, you know what, I'm not.
Yeah.
You go with them.
Yeah, and all of them had their issues, but the one thing that kept them so close, and the reason why they took over land, they spread the gospel, was the fact that, and I'm guarantee you that the disciples were able to communicate with one another and say, hey, this is what I need from you. This is what I can offer. This is where you went wrong. This is where, or I felt like you went wrong.
Right.
This is how I feel. Like, there's certain things that we don't even do.
Yeah.
That I guarantee you the disciples did because they followed Jesus and they followed the model. No matter how jacked up they were.
Right.
They followed the model, and that was the reason why they just was able to be that effective. And so it's this big misconception where when it comes to community, where we feel like we have to be perfect.
All right.
We have to be solid in a sense. And it's honestly, the more broken you are, the more honest you are with where you're at, you'll actually be surprised how many people will rally around you. Like, I don't care.
You told me you were fine.
Yeah, right. So if I ask you how was your day, you tell me good. I'm gonna actually roll with that and be like, all right, you good. But when you actually tell me something that's opposite of what you actually tell me was really going on, either I could, now the ball's in my court to say, okay, either I can run from it, or I can come to you and be like, okay, how can I serve you? Yeah. Or, hey, okay, let's talk. Oh, let's grab some coffee. Let's talk about it.
I can't do the 100, but I could do the 30. Here
right. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if I can't do everything, at least I could provide something. Yeah. And
but it starts with honesty.
But for the people that feel like they have to be quiet or feel like they have to let the people come to them, like you said, I'd rather get the 30. Please get your 30.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, get your 30 and then allow God to bring the 100.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Because you moved.
People aren't the finished product. You are not the result of someone else's faith, goals, or anything. At the end of the day, that's God's result. That is God's product. That is God's finished result. So for you to just be on mute with your issues, with your dysfunctions, with your conversation, whatever, and say, well, I'm gonna just pray about it. Yeah. That's fine, actually. And it's not a jab at people who just pray. No, pray and go to God about your issues. But at the same time, you need people. You need a God to allow. For God to bring those people to you.
Yeah.
So
and work through those people for you.
So
or for His will for you. Yeah.
He is the 100.
Yeah.
It's not people are the 100. You're not the 100. Dave is not the 100. I'm not the 100.
Right.
I'm the 20.
Right.
I'm the you 10. I'm the you the 50. You know what I'm saying?
This is S3. I'm the 33 and the 30.
You know what I'm saying? Let's do math. You know what I'm saying? And that's even go back to the disciples. Like that was the blueprint. They didn't have everything. They knew Jesus was the 100. Jesus was the goal. They were part of the puzzle.
Right.
But He is actually the ultimate masterpiece in this.
That's right.
So when we finally get to that point of being real with ourselves, number one, and saying, okay, I'm jacked up. I need community. This is what I need. Let me reach out. Allow that person now to give you what you need. And even if they can't give you what you need, at least you can go to God and be like, okay, God, he only gave me a phone call.
Yeah.
He only gave me a Starbucks meeting.
Mm-hmm.
He only gave me lunch. But can you provide the rest?
Right.
And can you allow God to provide the rest instead of feeling like people have to provide everything for you? And when you do that, then you actually miss God in that, in community. So community is derived off of God being the 100 and having the proper perspective of people. Man is not the 100.
Right.
They're pieces.
Right.
That you need. But ultimately, when you get those pieces, then God is able to put it together.
Right.
You can't put it together at all.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, community is so much, and
it is.
It's very touchy and sensitive for people because a lot of people don't have it.
I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah.
Because it was something that I struggle with. Not struggle as far as causing me to sin or anything like that. It's just
should cause me to sin.
For me, I get to the point where my feelings are kind of hurt, or I get into a little disappointment and like a lightweight depression almost because, I love the body of Christ. I read the Bible. I want the community that I read about in there, and I just have to come to terms with we're still working on it. You know
and
what I mean?
community wasn't pretty.
Yeah, thank you. This
It
is why
wasn't
what you're
pretty.
saying is so awesome because there are people
Yeah.
who think that you
Yeah.
have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Everything has to be on the up and up.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not bashing the institution,
Yeah.
but it's just where we get our mindset from.
Yeah.
It's where we get our perception of church from. And so a lot of times you will see somebody who probably hasn't eaten all week telling you that they're fine.
Exactly.
Not knowing that if you told, like you said, if you just told me, man, I'm about to go buy some dog food.
Yeah,
That's
right.
how I'm doing. I'm doing real bad.
Yeah.
So, around the members of the body that you're a member of, there should be food there for you. There should be counsel there for you. There's all those things, but because we do have an issue with thinking that we have to be perfect, and I'm not saying it's any of the leadership's fault. This is something that was here before the leadership. Like let's say established institutional organizations, churches, 501c3s, and all that. That's been here way before. Do you understand what I'm saying? So a lot of people we're just hopping into the machine. You know what I mean? But at some point, just like any car, just like your computer, it only does what you ask it to do so that you can move forward and actually, get things done in real life.
Community is not, and even to take it even, like Christianity is not a commercialized thing where we treat it as like an infomercial. This is not this is not a gimmick. You know what I'm saying? When you really try to walk this thing out, I'll tell you firsthand, it's not easy. It's not one of those things where you just smiling all day. No, you're gonna get irritated. You're gonna get mad. You're gonna be irritated at people. You're gonna have frustrations. You're gonna want to cuss somebody out. Like it happens, but that's part of the walk. That's what God requires is for you to walk. Period. Like no matter how you feel, just keep walking. You know what I'm saying? And be okay with just keep walking. And when it comes to the community and tying that back into community, like it's just a concept where we just have to stop feeling like everything has to just be right. Everything has to fit. Just because I'm a poet and you're a poet doesn't mean that we have to be friends. Just because, you know what I'm saying? Just because I do a certain thing and we do a certain thing, or you do an opposite thing, doesn't mean now we can't talk to each other. You might be my best friend that I've been looking for.
Right.
You might be the one that sharpens me. You know what I'm saying? So it's just getting out of that funk of feeling like, oh, everything got to be perfect. Right. Everything got to be, if you pray with me, you come to my show, or you come to A, B, C, D, or if we go to church together, or we go to prayer together, like. All that stuff is fine, and I do believe in presentation.
Yeah, I got it.
But at the end of the day, it's like when you get beyond that, who are you? You know what I'm saying? When you get beyond that,
are you being who you are supposed to be?
Like, how are you?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Asking those simple questions, but they're pivotal. How are you? Like, who are you?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Not just who or what you do, but who are you?
Right.
And when you're able to be honest with yourself, it's actually more freeing when you're able to say like, yo, like I'm struggling, like I'm actually pissed off at this person,
right?
Or like, look, I just got into it with God and I'm not really feeling God right now.
Right.
Like it's okay, you know what I'm saying? And that's where community is able to be like, okay, I'll rock with you. Let's actually walk together. So
that's what's up.
It's we'll I believe we'll get better. But we're definitely in this space where we're trying to get it right, but just in the wrong lane.
That's right. Right. And so, like I said, man, to me that was healthy because I thought I was like the only one who noticed something, and I don't. Like I said, I'm not trying to push buttons and say things to get up under people's skin. I'm honestly asking, like, where is the body of Christ that I read about in the Bible?
I think more people notice it, though. I think more people notice it. They just don't say nothing about it.
No, that's because this was like a confirmation.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was to me, it's like a hurdle. You know what I mean? Because I love the body of Christ, but I'm stunted from having that community and that real fellowship
Yeah.
because I don't play by
Yeah.
whatever was set
Yeah.
up. But um, now I want to talk about the Craft Factory.
For sure.
So the Craft Factory, you said you started in.
November of 2017.
Okay,
So
okay,
going on 2 years now in the
that's right.
fall. Yeah.
So tell me what is it's I know it's like a place for creatives to
Mhm.
come together. I know you
Mhm.
guys are going around and
Yeah.
influencing other creators, having
Yeah.
workshops. So, break it down for everybody.
Yeah, so the Craft Factory is it's an organization that like our tagline that we kind of created was it's a place where creatives sharpen creatives.
Okay.
So how it got started from the full backstory honestly was I remember about 2 years ago, I opened my laptop up to finish a business plan that I actually started 4 years prior to that. So that's probably about 2013.
Okay.
I was in my laptop and I typed it up and I knew what I wanted to do. I just didn't have the language to put it in. I knew what I loved. I just didn't know, okay, what does that look like? You know what I'm saying? And so one thing about me is I was good at a lot of stuff, and ironically that made me more frustrated
Hmm.
because it was like, okay, God, like
Why all
I'm
these
good at
ideas?
yeah,
Why?
like
Yeah.
I'm going 100 miles per hour. Like I probably got an idea for every person in the building right now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I was good at you know dancing. I did step, and I was good at speaking. I was good at poetry and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, God, like I need one career. Like, give me something. Like, feel like
Just
I'm
give me
pulling a
one
ticket.
gift
Like, just give me one gift.
so it can make room for me
Exactly. Like,
already.
make it make sense for me because
Right.
I am lost. And so, I remember one day God kind of gave me the revelation of like, I've given you multiple things because I'm trying to help you package it into one thing.
Hmm.
And so, I realized like I did all this stuff because this is actually me. I'm not the gift. The gift is in me.
Hmm.
And so I developed this whole business plan back in 2013 we're talking. So developed the business plan and I didn't have a name for it or nothing. And then I literally just stopped and I closed the laptop because I was scared. I was so fearful and I was like, ooh, this is not gonna work. Like, God, I don't know what you gave me. I don't want it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what this is. Because for me, one thing I struggled with was it wasn't the fact of like climbing the mountain or facing a struggle. For me, it was okay. What happens when I'm over it? What happens when I'm over the mountain? So the
Yeah.
success thing was a big thing for me. I was like, I don't know what to do. What happens if it works?
Yeah.
You know
No,
what I'm saying?
that's a legitimate
Yeah,
anxiety. That's why a
yeah,
lot of people feel that anxiety, and you know
yeah.
what they do? They self sabotage.
Exactly. And
Or
and it's key that you said that because I didn't realize I struggled with that until this summer
mm,
actually. This summer has been hectic, and so it's one of those things where I'm in a place where you're doing what you love to do, you're doing what you're called to do, but at the same time you're still required to grow. Like to manage that and still not get comfortable with you personally
mm-hmm.
and to grow while the craft factory is going too is such a it's a whirlwind of revelation that God will give you in that season. So God was showing me like all this stuff and I realized like wow, I really struggle with anxiety. Like I didn't know I thought I was just breathing hard. Like, so I thought I was, I'm fine. But I thought I just needed, community and all that
Right.
stuff. But no, I struggle with anxiety. And so going back to 2013, I closed the laptop. I was scared. I'm like, you know what? Nah, forget it. 4 years later, our church, we planted another campus in Pasadena. I remember going there, came home one night, and I don't remember the exact day. It was on a Saturday, or the date, but it was a Saturday, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I woke up and God just gave me the whole revelation of what it looked like.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh, shoot, I got it. So I opened my laptop, and he took me to the same business plan that I wrote 4 years prior. And so I redid it, edited all that stuff, and it came out to this finished product of serving creatives and pushing out content to help sharpen, encourage, to build, and to hold creatives accountable.
Hmm.
One of the key things that the two things that I researched when I was doing this was number one, we as gifted people, especially artists and people in the kingdom, we have a hard time. We start something strong. We're good at starting something strong, but we
Okay.
suck at finishing.
Right.
Like we don't know how
Yeah.
to finish nothing strong.
Yeah, I
And
feel you.
so when it comes to that, that's why we get caught up in bound going to the next idea when we haven't finished the first project.
Yeah, I'm
You know what
guilty.
I'm
I'm
saying?
guilty.
You know what
I'm
I'm saying?
guilty.
I did it, and once I realized that, I'm like, whoa, we don't do well with that. And so that was a thing that I wanted to really tackle. Another thing was creatives have the most warfare. Um,
Absolutely.
we go through a lot of mental warfare,
Now,
and
now look,
yeah,
watch this.
yeah,
What's awesome about that is as a creative,
mm-hmm,
and you're saying that to say gifted in whether it's
yeah,
dance, music, poetry,
mm-hmm,
just you are in tune. You are that's your gift. You know
yeah,
what I mean? And so being creative, whatever it may be,
mm-hmm,
as far as the warfare, our artists and artisans and things of that nature,
mm-hmm,
if you look in scripture, they're always the most sensitive. Sensitive is not a weak
yeah,
thing.
right,
Sensitive is not weak. You
right,
know why? Because if your nose is not working
mm-hmm,
and my nose is working and I smell that the next room's on fire,
mm-hmm,
my
exactly,
sensitivity
yeah,
to that smoke
it's
just
gonna help
saved
you,
us.
yeah,
Do you understand what I'm saying? So
mm-hmm,
when I say sensitive, I'm saying in that sense
yeah,
that a lot of artists, because my dad,
mm-hmm,
I got cousins who they do self sabotage
yeah,
because they are bombarded
yeah,
with spiritual warfare
yeah,
that it just plagues them.
yeah,
I don't know if the enemy knows that your sensitivity uh, will bring you closer to God, make you a
yeah,
more useful vessel. I don't know
yeah,
what's in that,
yeah,
but we can look at all of our
mm-hmm,
overdosed
mm-hmm,
artists just in
mm-hmm,
our time frame.
mm-hmm,
All of our self-destructing,
mm-hmm,
uh, most beautiful songwriters and
yeah,
singers that we know that are just so self-destructive
yeah,
because the warfare on artists is
yeah.
very heavy.
Yeah, one of the things the enemy loves to do is not he doesn't mind you loving Jesus. He doesn't mind you serving
Yeah,
Jesus and giving glory to God and all that stuff. He's after your identity. Like
thank you.
it's an identity thing, and it's the big question of, well, who do you believe?
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's something that I struggle with. Is like you're doing all this stuff, you're creating, you're performing, and all that good stuff, but you go through all the thoughts, you go through the distractions, you go through all this stuff when you're alone, you go through different things that you never thought would happen, only because the enemy knows, yes, you're gifted, but at the same time you struggle with who you are.
Hmm.
And that's how we fall into the concept of, we allow our gifts and what we do confirm our identity, but we don't allow necessarily God to confirm it.
Hmm.
We don't allow God to affirm us. We think our gifts affirm us.
I see. I, no, I
Yeah,
see how that's a
and it's not.
slippery slope.
It's
Like,
very slippery, and when you
go
don't
ahead.
control that slope,
Hmm.
it's like you fall into the trap of giving glory for yourself, and you start performing, you start doing all this stuff, and all of a sudden you miss God,
Huh.
and you misinterpret. For example, you misinterpret the voice of God and with your feelings and your emotion. And it's one of the things that I struggle with. And so when I started the craft factory, it really dawned on me. I'm like, whoa, we really are like tormented. Like we struggle with our headspace.
Yeah.
As much as we give a good performance, we might. And a side note to that, like creatives, and this is for just for people who are listening, like creatives are not just musicians, producers, DJs, and poets. If you develop a website, you're a creative. If you paint, you're a creative. If you're a photographer, you're a creative. So the other thing that I tried to want to kill is this myth of feeling like if you don't do the top three things, which is sing, dance, write poetry, then you must not be it.
Right.
And it's like, no, like creatives are all over.
Mathematical
Exactly.
geniuses.
That we may need, and
Yeah.
we need
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's something that I really want to just go after. So we started, um, and with the research and with just the things that God was showing me. So we started our first event in November. I think it was November 8th of 2017, out here in Riverside, actually, back to the grind. And the first ever event, we popped out a whopping total of 5 people in attendance.
Right.
And I think Dave was at the first one or the second one. I think the second one was when Belief came and he was there. But the first one, 5 people. And when I tell you I was so mad I got
I hear you.
I
hear
was
you.
like, God, this is not the vision.
Right,
What are
right.
you doing? I thought this would be better than this, blah
Right.
blah blah. And I wanted to quit, but God just tugged me to keep going. And at the time, I'm like, I don't know why I'm going, but okay, I'm gonna just keep going. And
Abraham.
right, listen. And one of the things I realized, even now, that's really precious to me is that now I believe the reason why I kept going was because I presented that first ever workshop like I was hosting 1,000 people. And when you believe in something, when you trust something, what you do for it, you'd be surprised how the length and the capacity that you have for that thing. No matter what the numbers look like, no matter who shows up, no matter who's there, it's the capacity that you've all of a sudden grown into of believing and loving what you do, and it will take you further than what you think. It's almost, it kind of reminds you of like going to the gym and you push yourself and you push how many reps, the reps you do, and then you'd be surprised how much you can bench press. You know what I'm
Right,
saying? And
right.
so
Results.
that first event happened, and 5 people. I was mad, but I kept going. And then the second event, it was kind of the same result. I'm like, all right, you know what I'm saying? That's when Believe came and did his thing, and I remember Dave was there, and we just kept going. But numbers grew over time, and it went from like 5 to 15, and then 25,
Mm-hmm.
and then the third one was like what Dave?
There were like 35 people at the second.
At the second
Oh,
one.
okay. See,
35,
I didn't see.
35
Listen,
at the second one.
I don't even know.
Not to mention that people from upstairs kept on walking down and coming in and out.
Right.
So really,
There was interest. There
There was. So
there were waves.
listen, I just remember that 5.
Ivan was there
Yes.
and Belief.
Ivan
I
Belief.
was actually impressed. I was like, oh.
Yes.
I didn't
Because
want
Ivan actually came twice. Actually, I think you came. Yo, no, you came twice. I think no. There was 2 events that Ivan came to. No, Belief. No, you, sir. You came to. It was that second one, and then the last one before we went to L.A. It was Ivan. Jose was there. My friend Lanita Smith was there. A few people there. That was actually the biggest turnout. So the 5 grew, and then we did like 3 more, and then we took it to LA, partnered with an organization, young adult organization that was into game nights and stuff, and packed it out actually in LA, which was great. And then I just burnt out. I was like, I'm tired.
It's work.
It's work.
Yeah, it's work.
And people who really want to do what they do, do what they want. It's work.
It's work. Yeah.
And I'm sure you can attest to it. Dave can attest to it. Like when you love what you do, it's great, but it's hard work.
No,
And
yeah.
so I remember that November of 2018, I just shut it down. I just gradually was like, I'm tired. I'm the only one doing this. I'm a one-man show.
Roughest.
You know, I need a team. My biggest cry to God was like, God, give me a team. Give me a team. Give me a team. And so I remember during the hiatus, though, I was still working on stuff behind the scenes. So I remember I had this big whiteboard, and I just kept drawing up goals that I wanted to accomplish in 2019.
Shout out to the whiteboard.
The whiteboard
I just got
yeah.
on the whiteboard not even
Yeah.
a month ago, bro.
Yeah.
Because things were scattered, dates are getting mixed up. I got house chores, I got things going on, and having it truly organized
It's crazy.
really beats I got it
Yeah.
down. So yeah, shout out to the whiteboard.
It's listen, the whiteboard does wonders, man.
Yeah.
So when you're able to write it out and see it, oh man, it does so much. So I remember that time I was MIA, I was tired, and the Craft Factory it hit a peak, but I didn't. Like you know, if that makes sense. Like it was going, but I felt like I wasn't going with it, and so therefore I just was like, all right, let me just take a break. And I remember when I don't think it was the Unashamed tour that came to Riverside, but I remember Lecrae, Minio, Reach came to Riverside, and I think and you was there, Dave, because I was with my boy Corey, and
Oh, come on.
yeah,
We can't just He's Corey J. I want to.
Corey
You know what
J.
I want to call him.
Corey, listen,
But
he went
he's
through.
dead.
Yes.
But Corey
Yes.
J.
Corey.
Shout out to
Yes, tried out.
somebody
Oh, he said it.
Don't
He
say
said
it
it.
3
I
times.
didn't.
If you say it 3 times real fast,
I didn't.
Something might happen.
I didn't. Yeah. Shout out to Corey.
Yeah.
But honestly, one of my good friends, my brother, he's rocked with me through so much, and so
Yep.
we went through the show. Dave was there, and he would leave when I'm trying to honor him.
Right.
And so I remember at the show, Dave wanted to, grab something to eat. You know Dave. Dave
Yeah.
always wanted to go chop it up after the show.
Yep.
So a few people declined or whatever. So it was actually just me, Dave, and Corey at a yard house, I believe. And honestly, I can say the Crab Factory would not be where it is if it wasn't for Dave, actually. Because there was a conversation we had, and this is the time where I was MIA, I was tired, and I'm like, ain't nothing going on. He asked me a question, and he was like, yo, what's going on with the Crab Factory? Crickets. I was like, nothing.
Right.
Nothing. Just chilling.
Yeah.
So I told him, like, nothing. I'm like, I'm tired. This is what it is, blah, blah, blah. And he said something to me, and he was like, bro, like, look at your Instagram page. You post a lot of other people's stuff. And I get that's what Craft Factory does. They support other creators that's doing their thing and all this stuff. But nobody knows you. Like, nobody knows you rule the land.
Right.
And prior to that, another friend of mine, Alexander James, he's a poet. He came to me, and it was at a time where I was at a crossroads because at the time I joined the P4CM, and so that's a whole nother another thing. And so at the time I joined P4CM, and I actually, ironically, I volunteered for them past Reddit almost every year, and so, but it was one Reddit where we talked, and we wanted to come aboard and be a part of the marketing side and blah blah blah. And so during that process though, at the time I was kind of like declining with the Craft Factory. I was like, I'm tired. And so I remember Alex came into the play because he's always been a good friend. But I asked him a question. I was like, yo, like, what do you think about like me?
And Alex is
Alexander James, phenomenal poet out in LA.
Okay.
He actually performed at this recent Rhetoric. Did amazing.
Okay.
Alexander James, Google him, phenomenal guy. He came to me, and I came to him, I called him.
Right.
And I remember asking him a question. I was like, hey bro, like, give me an honest opinion. What do you think of like the Craft Factory being under P4CM? And it was like this long pause. And shout out to P4CM. I love P4CM. But Alex was like, you know what, bro? That sounds great, but I want to see you run your own ship.
Right.
And it really rocked me as far as affirmation, because I've never had really anybody like affirm me in that way. I want to see you run your thing.
You could do it.
And at the time I felt like I couldn't, because I'm like, it needs to be
the
with
money
something or
and
all this stuff.
Who am I to
know what I'm saying? And so, but I discredited myself so much that I fell under the trap of, okay, well, let me be under this or do this, or like you just said, like let me be attached to something. And again, this is not a plea for people to not attach themselves to something. If it's healthy, do it.
Yeah. If it's that season, go for it.
Yeah, exactly.
But
if you need to submit to your organization, do it.
That's right.
But I was like, man, I just want to see you run your own ship. And I was like, oh man, that's not what I want to hear. You know what I'm saying? That is not what I want to hear. And so between that and then fast forward to the concert, went out to dinner with Dave, and Dave was like, yo, like, people need to see who you are, like who runs the Craft Factory.
Right.
And from that conversation came the whiteboard, and I went to work on writing down all my goals for this year, 2019. So I had goals as far as, okay, how many followers do I want on Instagram? This is the content, all this stuff, and I revamped everything. So in the first year of the Craft Factory, it was all about showcasing gifts and encouraging gifts and how to market well and this is how you brand and all this stuff. But I hit a point where I was struggling so much mentally at the time, and I realized like I'm going through this because it's actually for somebody else. Like I need to keep that in perspective. So the whole vision of the Craft Factory shifted into, no, we're not just going to talk about your gifts. We're not just going to talk about the practical things like how to brand, how to market, how to speak, all this stuff. What I really want this to be from now on is I'm going after the mind and the heart of a creative.
Right.
I'm going after that space, those spaces where they feel like they're alone, where they feel like they go through the warfare, they feel like they can't finish anything. That's what I'm after.
That's right.
And so I streamlined that concept to every single thing that we've been putting out this year. And when you look, whiteboard, when you have a whiteboard, I'm trying to tell you, when you have a whiteboard, when you got a whiteboard, you'd be surprised how much clarity you have. When you write it, put it in front of you, see it.
Yeah.
When you see it.
Yeah, don't squint at it. Don't
blur
like, your eyes when you look at it.
When you see it,
it
gives you so much clarity on what you got to do. And then add deadlines. Another thing that people don't do is put deadlines. Especially artists and people in entertainment and creatives. We don't like being accountable. And when you don't like being accountable, you feel like you can just do art with the wind. Like, you know what I'm saying?
What you're saying, like I said, this is coming from being raised by a creative, being around them, being attracted to them, whether, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that, old girlfriends, I don't mean.
Yeah.
But my thing is this. I did have to come to terms with this. Okay. To be creative is how are you going to put a structure on my art? But
man, look,
to gain traction, to be successful, to stay on top of things, to get it to where this wonderful gift that was freely given to you is structured enough to where it can expose you to other things and expose
the
other
biggest
things
lie
to you.
that we are under is feeling like we can just do whatever with our gifts. Like, just because you produce or did a great album does not mean that, to some people's standards, your great album was probably not that good because you didn't come out with it a year ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a big issue when it comes to creatives don't like accountability.
Yeah.
And not just accountability personally, because that's something that we definitely need for sure.
Right.
But even accountability with your gift. Like, just because you have a gift doesn't mean.
Yeah.
And this may sound crazy, but just because you have a gift doesn't mean it's yours.
There you go. No. what I was trying to say is it's just that, because you being sloppy or being not fully committed or being, let's say, not a good steward, meaning you have the gift and it's awesome, but it's not being presented well. It's not being put on a schedule. It's not meeting any goals. It comes when it wants. It's sleeping today, or it don't feel like it, or it gets irritated when you try to not structure it so that it's not creative anymore, but structure it so that it's useful, because it's not just yours. You're a vessel of this gift, and there's a group or a generation or an age range or a gender that needs what you have, and you over here, playing with it.
And I did all of that, and there's times even now it's like we still struggle with the self-sabotage, and it's like, oh, I can push this. This deadline,
it's
I can
just
push
so
this
subtle.
project. It's so simple and subtle, and it feels good to be like, I can just push this aside. But in reality, what you're doing is you are literally killing off somebody's potential to be impacted by what you do. Like, you're missing it. You're
missing God's will.
Exactly. You're missing the opportunity. And so, when we did the Craft Factory and we started this year, good old whiteboard. Shout out to the whiteboard again.
Shout out
to the whiteboard. So I had the vision. I had all these goals now from that conversation. And literally, fast forward to now, literally all those goals that I wrote back in 2018, it was like December, sorry. All of them has been crossed out.
That's
I'm
awesome.
Literally, and now it grew from me to now I have two other people that are helping tremendously with the Craft Factory. And one thing I tell people all the time is, for the Craft Factory, it's not about, if you feel like you want to help, that's great.
Right.
But at the same time, if you're gonna be a part, then I want you to own the vision. I want you to own it and take it further than me.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I'm in a place where I don't want my name to come before the Craft Factory, because I really believe the Craft Factory is a bigger picture of me. It's a bigger
Yeah.
fruit
Yeah.
of me, and I get it.
You're just a branch. You're
yeah,
just a branch.
I
on
do
a tree.
spoken
I got you.
word and all that stuff. I get it, and that's gonna come. But at the same time, I don't want my name to be a part of something when I feel like the Craft Factory has much more, and I'm attached to it, so I'm not worried about anything.
That's
You know what I'm
right.
saying?
That's
So
right.
that was the thing, and so yeah, like all the goals that I wrote out last year literally are done, and I'm literally, everything that we're doing now is just ideas that God just gave us, miscellaneous stuff. So the tour and the podcast that we're on now, with our sports podcast, we do a sports podcast every Saturday.
Oh, shout it out. Where can they
Yeah.
find it?
So SSAW, so a Sports Analysis Worldwide, presented by the Craft Factory. SSAW Sports Podcast, presented by the Craft Factory. You can literally find it on any platform: Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. So it's actually funny. We have a good time. We meet around 10 o'clock, and we do it for about an hour. And of course, do the whole editing thing and all that stuff, and it's out. So it's every platform. So go take a listen to it. But yeah, so literally the vision of the Craft Factory is literally running like a factory right now. So it's the tour. We're on this tour right now, that we started last Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah, last Saturday. I'm trying to make sure I got my dates right. And so just 3 cities: LA, the Bay Area, San Francisco, Oakland, and New York. We'll be in New York in October.
Oh.
And so between that and then the sports podcast and the blogs that we do, and
And the
just,
blogs are everything's
yes,
on the website.
Everything's on the website.
Okay.
Everything's on the website. The podcast is just now being added onto the website, but everything, the tour details, the blogs, our spotlight. We have a spotlight page where we spotlight a creative for a good lifting time. So they're up on our page with their picture, their bio, their music, their everything. Right now, Young C is on our page right now.
Yeah. Shout out to Young C.
Shout out
He's
to
my
Young
guy.
C.
He's
He's a guy that is one of the most consistent artists right now in the game.
He's dope.
He's knocking out projects and singles like crazy. So shout out to Young C, like for real.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's on the website. So it has all of our content, and so the goal, honestly, is we want our content to not just entertain people, but to show people like they could do it too, and show people like not just how to do certain things, but to encourage them, sharpen them, give them open doors to have conversations. Right now it's not finalized or anything like that yet, but we're working on another podcast actually is going to be probably entitled The Ugly Truth. And so what that looks like is we're literally going to be talking about racism, politics,
Real stuff.
real
The
stuff.
ugly truth.
Yeah. Injustice.
Yeah.
And it's all going to revolve around Jesus. And so I feel like even with that, like, we don't necessarily have the open, just a conversation. And for me, I tell people, like, having the conversation about stuff like that actually leads to the seeds of action. Like, we can say, oh, we need action, we need this, all this, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, unless I'm willing to have the conversation without strain,
Or
then,
hiding it, or sugarcoating
without
it, or
anxiety,
playing
without
with it.
stress, then we won't see a lot of stuff. So for me, that was the whole reason of for literally 2 months now, carrying that burden of like, man, I wish we had a podcast for this and blah blah blah. And so God kind of gave me the idea, and so we're working on that right now.
I think
Yeah.
What's coming into mind why it's so necessary is because these are the things that people don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
They deal with every day.
Mm-hmm.
Or they don't want to talk about it because they don't know how to take it from a biblical perspective.
Yeah, and it's just a conversation. I think sometimes people, even just simple things, it's just having a conversation with somebody, they feel like it has to have a result,
right there.
and end, and who's right, who's wrong, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But when it comes to stuff like this, we just need to just have the dialogue.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you'll be surprised what comes out of it.
Yeah.
So that's my goal with that is let's just have a conversation about the ugly truth. You know
That's
what I'm saying?
right. That's
And
right.
so when you look at just all the branches of the Craft Factory right now, I never thought it would go from this to just
Concept.
5 people.
That's
You know what
right.
I'm saying? We went from 5 people to now literally reaching people across the nation. And it's so humbling. And I'm grateful for God to use somebody like me.
Right.
I tell people like, man, I'm the least of these. Like, you know what I'm saying? I am the guy that can never get it right, the anxiety guy, the one that had a interesting childhood, the one that, you know, always can't get right and all, like I'm that guy. And for God to use something and give me something that is bigger than me, to finally, like, I'm in a place honestly where I'm in a place in my life where I'm looking at the Craft Factory, I'm looking at everything and seeing what it looks like, what it actually means when people say this is bigger than you.
Right.
Like, we say it all the time, it's cliche, like, oh, this is bigger than you, find something that's bigger than you. But when you really, like, when you're involved in something that is bigger than you, that means you are relying on the strength of God, like all 100%. You are. It's not you. You don't have the strength. You don't have the bandwidth.
Yeah.
You don't have the ideas. As much as we are creatives, you don't have enough ideas to compare to what God can do with your little. You know what I'm saying? And yes, you're gonna hit some rough spots. You're gonna hit some difficulties. You're gonna hit probably some broken relationships.
Right.
You're gonna mess up. You're gonna probably have a bad event. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna have these things, but when you're able to keep going, you believe in something, and you know God has called you to a certain group of people, and that's one of the things that people gotta know is before you go out to do something, like, know your group of people. Who are you assigned to? You can't just go for the masses and be like, oh, I'm gonna just go and take over the world. Like, you can't take over the world. Take over your group.
That's right.
Take over your block.
Even
you know
in
what I'm saying?
scripture, you know what I mean? Paul went to who he was, who he could relate to.
Yeah. So
From
once
where he
I
came
found,
from,
once I found who I'm called to the people that are crazy. I'm called to the people that are struggling with the mental warfare. I'm called to the people that have anxiety attacks. Because that's what I do. You know what I'm saying? So
as a creative, it's truly there.
Yeah, and so it's humbling. It's humbling to realize your struggles are not in vain, and the struggles that we go through is only because, guaranteed, somebody else is going through the exact same thing, whether you believe it or not. And when you put that in perspective, like I said, you'll be amazed at the bandwidth that you're able to operate in, and the capacity that you're now subconsciously, you don't even feel like you're being stretched, but you are.
Right.
Because now you're using your pain, your struggle, the things that are like your kryptonite, if you will, and now you're using that as, because I struggle with it or struggled with it, then I'm able to now reach these people because now I'm able to identify, like,
I can relate.
You struggle with anxiety. Oh, I see that. Oh, you struggle with stress. Oh, I get that. You struggle with the mental writers. Oh, I can attest to that. So, it's just clarity. It's an identity thing. It's a clarity thing more than anything. It's not in the brand. It's not in how fancy the name is. Like, I don't care about no algorithm. I don't care about no, and I'll say this: there is structure. There is structure. You know what I'm saying? There's times where I post at a strategic time because I know most of the followers are. So it's you know what I'm saying? You got to. But when it comes to
it's called balance, bro.
It's
you
balance.
Know what I mean? And here, the scripture says nobody wins a game without playing by the rules. And the rules are you post at the peak time.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do it, you're gonna do it correctly.
Get what you got. Get what you got to get. You know what I'm saying?
It isn't the beginning or the end of what you're being used for.
Yeah, it's just when the focus is off.
It's
and
a good
proportion
stewardship to do that.
Yeah,
I'm listening. Go ahead.
When the priorities is mixed up, when it comes to now you're focused on
algorithms and numbers.
Let me post because I know my peak followers are at 3:00 and p.m. That's when I get off work. So let me post this picture and then let me do a follow up on my story. Yeah. Like, when you put so much energy in that, it's like, okay, bro, like, just let God do what he do. One of the best things I learned from a branding guy who's secular, Brandon went to a conference in Atlanta. Branding strategist. One of the things he said was, algorithms can't dictate the people you resonate with. Like, who cares about the likes? If you can resonate with people, you won't die. Like you'll never go away. Your name will last forever.
Exactly.
So it's not a matter of getting 40, 100 likes and all this stuff. The likes really don't mean anything when you're able to resonate with people with your product.
Yeah.
Then you can move and
we're talking impact.
It's
we're
the
talking
impact thing.
True engagement outside
Exactly.
of kind of checking your
Exactly.
boxes as
That's
far as
and that's
numbers
another
or
misconception
whatever.
of creatives. Like we feel like just because we post something that and we get 1,000 likes, we think that we made it, and we think that okay, we did great.
Right.
No, you didn't. You just got 1,000 likes. Did they buy your album?
There you go.
Did they copy your single? Did they spread? Did they repost? Did they? You know what I'm saying? Like we have a bad thing of like this first world perception with our gifts and as creatives, we feel like just because we post something, or we said the nice thing, we said the right thing,
right.
and all this stuff that we did a solid job. Like nah, like did people? What is the fruit of that?
Right.
And that's what I'm learning now. Like what is the fruit of what you put out? Can you produce after you just produced?
Yeah. like you said, can you reciprocate?
Can you exactly
this online?
Exactly.
Let's say if you want to call it success or breakthrough or whatever, can that translate into either we can do monetary, or we can do who was impacted, who was changed, who grew, and so
that's what it's about.
But we're gonna wrap it up, bro.
Yes, sir.
Because I know we could do this all day.
Right.
I mean, and so
right.
But every place that they can find you, any way that they can reach you to help. Let me give you your camera.
Yeah.
And there you go.
Yeah. You can find me on thecraftfactory.org. That's our website. You'll find everything there. Oh, looking. Bam. There it is. You can find everything on our content, thecraftfactory.org. You can go on our Instagram, thecraft.factory, or Facebook. It's just The Craft Factory. So we're on Instagram, Facebook, and our website. You can email us at info at thecraftfactory.org. If you want to reach me personally, you can follow me on Cecil Poetry. Cecil Poetry on every social media platform. You can reach me again on thecraftfactory.org. And that's that. You can reach me personally from that, or if you want to reach the Craft Factory to even connect, build, or even join our team, info at thecraftfactory.org. So hopefully we'll talk to y'all soon.
Well, that was it. Thank you, Cecil, for kicking it. Really appreciated it, and you've helped me out. No, I'm telling you. I'm telling you, you've helped me out.
Appreciate
and so,
it,
like I said, thank you guys for listening. We're set apart, and we're out of here.
Peace.